Math 122, welcome back for week number 2. We got a homework on exponential modeling. Hope you've seen it posted on the course documents. Let's check out the assignment, and let me give you a couple pointers on some ways to proceed. Your problem number 1's looking like this. I give you a grid of x and y numbers. That's your homework problem. I'm going to go ahead and change the numbers slightly, solve the problem. You'll understand the method and apply it for the homework. Alright, so if we have x and y right here, and I'm asking about an exponential equation. Last week was mx plus b. Now for exponential, and hopefully you've checked this out in the course lecture notes. Here's your equation: y equals a parentheses b to the x. We need to fit the a and the b for this equation. How come we don't fit y and x? Because they change. Look at this. They're going to change. They're variables. They can go up and down, bigger and smaller. We don't get y and x. We solve a and b. Now the first thing we need to know is that if you find the starting point, and when I say starting point, I mean find the x0, that is my starting point, and then slide right over the corresponding y number. If I find the x0, my starting point, slide over to the corresponding y, that number 3, that is my a value. There's nothing, I don't need to think hard about it. That is just the a value. Find the starting point, get the y value, and you have an a number. And just go right in the equation. Just that's it. A value, we like that one. Not a whole lot of math, just an identifying, it's sort of a problem in identifying. Where do I start? The b, however, the b we do need to do a little bit of work. We need to see how am I progressing. If you look at the y number, not the x's. I know how the x's are progressing. My 7-year-old son can do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's easy. We're going to jump over to the y and say, how do I progress from 3 to 21? How am I progressing? I'm multiplying, but by what? And then ask yourself the same question from 21 to 140. All right, that might be a little harder to do in your head, but with a calculator, you could say, how am I progressing? And the same thing in that last step, 147 to 1029. How do you progress? Now, I certainly think from 3 to 21, we can ask ourselves that in just using our mind, our times tables. We know we progress by 7. I'm using the word progress. What do I really mean? Multiply. 3 multiplied by 7 gets you to 21. So if you do that progression problem, you can solve the b and then plug that into the equation right there. So once again, 2 different numbers I got to solve. The a, that's an identification. The b, what do you have to do? You have to look at how am I progressing, or in this case, multiplying. I multiply by 7, 7 goes in my equation. I'll let you check back on what the 1a for the homework is, and hopefully you can use that same method, get a solution. Number 2, I give you the points. Remember, points are parentheses with 2 numbers, x and a y. Last one I did it with a nice little grid. Now I've got the points in x comma y. So I'm going to make my life a lot easier. Well, first I'm going to change it. This is the problem that you're going to get. And then you'll apply to the homework. Let me make my life easier by actually, hey, there's the equation. Remember, that's what we're going for, a and b in that equation. This is what I'm going for. I'm looking to make those points fit in a grid, and then we can sort of proceed like we did on the last problem. So what do? I take the first point, 0 and 8, put in for x and y. I take the second point, 1 and 20, go in for x and y. Now this looks real similar to the problem I was just doing. What did I say about the a? I said the a is you identify the starting point, 0, and the corresponding y is 8, and that goes into my equation. All right. What about the b number? I have to look at how it progresses from 8 to 20. Now this is not a times table because there's no number multiplied by 8 that gets you 20. No whole number. It's going to be a decimal. I could take out my pocket calculator and do 20 divided by 8. You get an answer. And then, okay, I'm playing coy about it. I'm saying that's how you would figure it out. Do a little calculation, you'd get a b, and then you plug it into the equation. That's how you would proceed in this one. You'd have to use a little bit of math to figure out what you multiply by, put it in the equation, and then you'd have your answer. Keep those processes in mind. I think you'll be able to solve numbers 1 and 2 for the homework. Also, there will be a second video on this week 2 homework, and I'll show you some other pointers on number 1 and 2. But for the time being, let's jump on to number 3. This is a word problem. All right, what am I looking at? I've got a car, I've got a price, I got a percentage, I need an equation. First of all, equation, we know what's going on. We know we're going to have y equals a to the bx, because I'm talking about exponential. None of this mx plus b. That was last week. All right, I know a. What does a stand for? A stands for, what did I say before? The starting value. Just look at the problem. I think I can tell what the starting value is going to be. 16,400. I'm halfway to my formula already. Now we just need to find the b. I was talking about b is the progression, right? We had that grid, and we say, okay, multiply by 7 in the first one. And on number 2, I think it was multiply by 2.5 to get from 8 to 20. All right, you take care of those. But in a word problem scenario, there's another way to think about the b. The b is 1 plus or minus the percentage. Whoa, okay, that's going to help me because I have a percentage, 18%. But what's this plus and minus? How do I decide which one? Read the problem. Decrease. Decrease should tell you what's going on. And you might have seen it flash on the screen also. Don't do plus or minus 18, plus or minus 0.18. We have to move the decimal for a percentage. So you'll do that to get the b and then put it in the equation. And then you'll have it. That's it for part A. And then you have to plug in for part B. Hopefully that's a good start to get you on 1, 2, and 3 for the homework. Video number 2 will come later today or early tomorrow, Friday, with some other pointers for week number 2 homework. Any questions? Shoot me an email.